Welcome back to Unaesthetically Speaking. I'm Juliana Mary, and today we are talking with my great friend and former business coach, Amanda. She is a product photographer, a coach, and a course creator. And I'm so excited that she is here because she has just got this wealth of knowledge that we're going to dive into. So, Amanda, would you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself, where you're from, what you do, all the good things.
Yeah, firstly, I'm so excited, Juliana. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you and to come onto your podcast.
Thank you.
But yeah, hi guys, I'm Amanda. We were actually just talking about how to pronounce my last name, and a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it. Even like when I was growing up, no one pronounced it correctly, but the last name is pronounced Campeanu and it's Romanian.
Thank you.
And I You're so welcome. Everyone's like, are you Romanian? And I get so many DMs about like with that question. I was like, heritage, yes. Born in Brisbane, Australia. But yeah, I'm essentially, for those who don't know me, I'm a product photographer, a course creator. So I have multiple online programs that teach product photographers basically how to like do epic business and make a lot of money and have lifestyle freedom and all that fun stuff. I do YouTube. I have recently stepped into coaching in the last like year and a half. Oh my God, year and a half now. Wow. And yeah, I'm just, living my best life really, doing all the things that I love.
It's perfect. And I don't know if you know this. Did you know that I first found you through YouTube? That was how I
Did you really?
got into your world. Yeah. I was hired to do my first skincare photo shoot. And I hadn't ever done skincare. I just pretended like I had when I was on the client call and booking the thing.
Yeah,
and then I booked it and I was like, well, shoot, I don't know how to actually do skincare. So I started Googling and I found your videos on YouTube, which linked then to your course. And so immediately, like I watched the YouTube and then I immediately signed up for the course because I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much good content just right in this YouTube video. The course has got to be amazing. And of course it was. Like I learned so much. And then we worked together. You were my business mentor last year. Last year?
Yeah.
I think it was last year already.
Yeah. Oh my God. The time's gone so fast. We're basically June. That is wild. But yeah, that's so cool you found me on YouTube. Like I love hearing how people discover me because a lot of it has been via Instagram over the last like 7 years. But when people say like, oh, I found you on YouTube, I was like, that's so cool. Like that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Well, how much has YouTube been a part of your strategy? Because I know you still create new YouTube videos. So it's definitely a part of, your overall business plan. Has that always been the plan? You were like, yeah, I'm going to go in on YouTube and this is like the thing. How did that start?
Yeah. So actually, I went all in on YouTube like a couple of months after I launched to become a brand photographer back in 2020. But I was dabbling in YouTube before that. And like, oh my God, I look back at some of my older videos. They're actually still there. If anyone wants to like have a cringe moment with me. They're so bad. But you have to start somewhere, right? And it's been probably the biggest part of getting exposure around the coaching side, the education side of my business, more so than Instagram. Because when people want to learn product photography, they go to YouTube. They don't go to like TikTok. They don't go to Instagram and type in how do I shoot skincare. Like they go to YouTube. So it's been like a massive part of connecting with new photographers, even videographers. And then they come over to Instagram and they get to know me a little bit more because I'm a bit like I share a lot more personal stuff on my Instagram. But yeah, I won't lie though, it's probably one of the hardest like social platforms to do because you have to go all in if you want to see results, and you have to wait a really long time to see results. I remember like doing my first maybe like 5 months of YouTube after the course. I was like every week let's upload every week, regardless of what happens. Like, you don't really get that immediate validation with YouTube. Like, it takes a while to grow. Whereas sometimes with Instagram, you might have a reel that will like take off a little bit, or you've got some kind of a community. But YouTube is a little different when you start. And I think that's why so many people struggle to commit to YouTube, because they're like, oh, this is a fuck ton of work. Like you spend a whole day filming. It takes up so much of your energy. You have to edit it, and that takes a whole day. And you might get like, I don't know, 100 views or something when you start.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's worth it in like the long run. You just got to commit.
How long was it before you really started to see like, oh, this is working?
I would say at least a year. Like,
Okay. And
and
you were
that's being
posting
really
every week?
consistent. Nearly. I think, for the first year, I tried to get one up every week. I might have missed a couple of weeks, and now I don't post every week. It might be like once a month or twice a month, when I have time, because it takes a lot of your energy. And there's also that whole conversation around, do I create to please the masses, or do I create for me? And I think sometimes when you focus too much on, oh, what do other people want? Or like, what's going to maybe go viral, you start to lose part of what you want to share and like how you want to create. So I've also battled with that during my YouTube journey, as to like, what should I post and what do I want to post? But yeah, I think at least a year. You've definitely got to have like a long-term mindset. I wouldn't say, because I get asked this question too, do you get bookings, like product photography bookings from YouTube? Some have come through YouTube, but not a lot. So I wouldn't say it's like an amazing strategy to get bookings for your product photography business. I think it's more so for if you're an educator, it's an amazing platform. Or if you just like want to share your life and you enjoy YouTube and you enjoy making videos, like that is an amazing avenue to go down. It's a long-term game, but I think it's one of the most rewarding things I've done, and it feels more rewarding than Instagram as well.
Interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. What is it about it that's more rewarding?
I think it's like the amount of effort that you go into to produce a video, because obviously it's all long form. Most of it's long form, and you get to just talk about things so much more in depth than say when you're on Instagram or TikTok. Like, Instagram now has really become about like, here's your hook and here's how to do this and ... Whereas when you're on YouTube, you can really like go deeper into a topic and sit there for 20 minutes and talk about something and actually like tell a story. And I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm on YouTube, I'm more likely to like, I'll put YouTube on while I'm on the treadmill and I'll just like listen to someone's video. If it's like 20, I'm like, give me a 30-minute video so I can just whack it up, kind of like a podcast, So I think it's really amazing as well to create more in-depth connections with people who like, where you can have deeper conversations. Even with like Instagram stories, like I feel like sometimes it's hard to have a deeper conversation on there because people lose their attention span. I mean, I do, especially if you don't have captions or anything like that. It's like, how much are people actually engaged with your short form content? Whereas I think on YouTube, people are a lot more engaged with long form because they're there for the long form and they're there to just like tap in and listen to what you've got to say, and you can go as deep as you want.
Yeah, it's not that like, what is that word? Like that instant gratification that you expect on TikTok. If it's not interesting in the first second, I'm gone. Yeah.
And like, that's why I love TikTok, but I don't use it a lot, to be honest, and I find it's too addictive, and I think it's not great for our brains because it's just like our attention spans have become so short. But I think on YouTube, it's like people are there for a different purpose, and that's why I love it, because people are there to learn and they're there to listen. They're not there to just next,
right.
like fucking scrolling down on TikTok.
So I want to go back to, you mentioned something about creating content that either you felt like, what do the masses want, or what do you want to create? Do you have any
Yeah.
like more examples of that? Like, did you have a specific time where you were like, oh man, I know this would really like
Mm.
pop off,
Yeah.
but you didn't do it? Or an example of where it did and you were like, I wish I hadn't done that. That wasn't really what I wanted.
Yeah. I think it's been more so to do with my interest and passion around mindset. And
Okay.
so what I notice on, like, say my YouTube channel, for example, everyone goes there for BTS. It's like, Amanda, we just want to learn how to light our still life scenes, like still life product photography. We don't even want your model stuff. Like, for some reason, model work doesn't do as well as like the perfectly curated product only styled photos. I think it's the same on Instagram too. Whenever I post a model photo, it gets like way less engagement. Not that I care, I really don't. It gets way less engagement than like a beautiful photo of a product. I'm like, guys, this model photo is beautiful. It's amazing. It's art. Look at it. And no one gives a fuck. except except my clients, which is who pay me. So like,
Right.
you know,
Huh.
that's the point. But yeah, I think that's why I held back so long on talking about mindset, because it is a massive passion of mine, mindset, psychology. And it's only really been this year that I've started to put those videos out, even though they may not get as like many views sometimes, is because I just love having those conversations. And I think those conversations are so potent. And if I can just get someone thinking about something that I've said, like just one person, I'm like, great, that's what this video was for, even if it's just for one person. And so I've tried to change my mindset around, I don't always have to post behind the scenes content of my work. I can post other stuff. So I think for a while I kind of pigeonholed myself into a box because of my mind. Like, it all comes back to mindset. And it kind of just makes you feel a little bit more restricted. And so, yeah, I think that's probably an example from my own content creation, where it's like you hold yourself back from the things that you actually want to share because you're more focused on the metrics rather than the conversations that you want to have. And again, it's a long-term game. Like, maybe in 3 years time, like those videos will like pop off, or those videos will still be working for me in 3 years time. So that's also how I view YouTube too, is like, it's such a long-term game, knowing that people are going to keep coming back and new people are going to find you in like 3, 5, 10 years. And
Right.
the content will still be relevant then.
Right. Which is so different than Instagram
Oh
or
yeah.
TikTok or
Yeah.
any of the other places. Pinterest is a little longer, but it's not years like YouTube
No,
is. That's an interesting
no.
point. Really in it for
Yeah.
the long game with it. And you
Yeah. And
mentioned, oh, go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I was going to say, even when I like find a YouTuber that I love, I'll binge all their content like as much as I can from even years back. Whereas on Instagram, like, I'm not going to scroll back like much in their feed and just be like, cool, this is a new reel, like, follow, and I'm never really going to visit their profile again. Whereas I will actively seek out my favorite subscribers on YouTube and be like, what's like, what do they got for me? Like, what haven't I watched yet? So
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing about YouTube as well, is just it's the type of platform and content, and the relationship that it can form with your subscribers that I love.
That's awesome. And I'd love to talk about, you kind of glossed over it a little bit. This
Yeah.
idea of, it was when you were talking about mindset and that you were holding yourself back from like doing multiple different things in your business. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just talking with somebody else about that today, because I was saying, gosh, won't it be confusing for people if I
Mm.
am offering this one thing, but then I also want to offer this other thing, but then I also want to do this other thing? And she was like, well,
Yeah.
no. But I think that is a real struggle. So
Mm-hmm.
can we talk about that a little bit? How did you,
Yeah.
because you do offer lots of different things to relate. I mean, it's all related to you and to what you do. but it's different
It's a
audiences.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yes, I have struggled with this exact thing, and especially around like introducing the more of the mindset training to my business, especially with coaching. Like, I had wanted to become a coach for at least a year prior to when I actually announced it, because I was like, is this, I'm a product photographer. Like, is this too, like, what are people going to identify with me as a coach? Like, what does that even look like in my business? Because people know me as a product photographer. But I think as as we grow, as the years go on, like our identity shifts. And I mean, I even had this struggle when I was starting my business as a product photographer. I found it really hard when people would ask me, "Oh, Amanda, what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I just have a business. Like, yeah, I just like started." And I'd have to get Alistair to say, "Yeah, she's a product photographer." Like, I had a really hard time saying it myself. And this was when I kind of just was coming out of corporate. And it took me a long time to, like, own the fact that I was even a product photographer, because you have that identity shift. And I felt that again when even honestly, even now when people ask me, "Amanda, what do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a product photographer." I completely own it now. Like, I'm like, "I'm a product photographer." Like, fuck yeah. But I don't say, "Oh, I'm also a coach." I don't say that, because my identity hasn't quite like caught up to that part of me yet, even though it, like, online, absolutely it has. But I think when I meet people just in my real life, the product photography is the main thing about business. Yeah, so that's something that I've noticed for myself. But yeah, it can be hard to introduce new things, especially when your audience is used to one thing, but you have a passion for something else. And I've always had a passion for, like, I have a bachelor in social science. So I majored in psychology and criminology. And when I was coming out of high school, it's like, what do I love? Like, what attracts me the most, that I would be so happy to sit down for 2 years and go to uni and study for? And I was like, psychology, like, that sounds really cool. Like, that interests me so much. And I actually used to want to be a psychologist, but it got really expensive to have to be a psychologist. So that didn't happen. And you have to do like so many more years of study to actually become a psychologist. Like, you're in uni for many, many years. And I just wasn't committed back when I was like 19 years old. And so, yeah, for me internally, it feels still natural though that I am introducing more of the mindset and psychology to my brand, because it brings me back to what I did out of high school and what I went to uni for. And it reminds me of, like, that's what past Amanda actually really loved. She still loves product photography,
Sure.
but her main passion was psychology. And, like, why do we do what we do? Like, why do we behave the way we behave? Why do we want what we want? And, like, how can we use our minds to be the better version of ourselves every single day and constantly reach our potential? We all have so much untapped potential. And the mind fascinates me so much. But yeah, back to the question that you asked.
It's fascinating because I don't know if you know this, I also majored in psychology. And
No way.
yeah, so no wonder we like get along. And I also wanted to be a psychologist and wanted to get a doctorate and do research and teach. And so I also find that stuff just fascinating, and bringing it into business stuff, I always think is fun when there's a chance to. So that's really funny. But yeah, back to my question. Yeah, bringing out all these different aspects of your business, but they really are just different aspects of, what you love. So there is that, like, very clear connection. But did you ever find it was difficult to communicate that to these audiences, like through, these platforms, right? Because it's all one Instagram and it's all one YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that ever difficult? Were there any struggles there, or was it
Um,
did it just kind of flow and it was fine?
I think for the most part, it flowed. And I think that was because when I started my Instagram back in 2017, I I had I always went in with the intention of it not being more so like a business, but it's a personal brand.
Mm.
Um, and it's funny because when I started my business, the business was not my name. It was fuck. It's so cringe. Oh my god, I hate this.
Say it. What was it? This is the whole
um,
point. Like, we all start from places where we're like, ooh.
so I called it. I called it Plush Content Co.
Okay.
Oh God, I hate that name. Because I called it that because I was like, what is like a word for luxury or something? But like everyone was using the word luxury at the time. So it's like, I need
Mm-hmm.
to be different. And I had that name for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went full time in my business, I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like I feel restricted. I feel restricted by this name that I have because it felt like a business. And I was always showing up in a way where yeah, like doing business, but I was also sharing my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was like, I'm just going to change my account to my name, my full name.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best things I ever did. And that, I guess that kind of helped with the identity shift. Whereas like when I did that, it felt like I could just be me. I could
Yeah.
just share whatever I wanted to share because it was a personal brand. It wasn't just a business. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I enjoy building the most, is not just a business, but like a brand for myself where I get to talk about a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be business. It can be anything. And I think that for me personally, that has felt very unrestrictive because I've definitely spoken to other photographers where they're like, oh, I kind of want to share like this other interest that I have, but I don't know if this is going to have a place on my Instagram. And I'm like, if you're passionate about it, share it. Like there's no rules here. And yeah, it might feel a little weird when you first start talking about something and people are like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, okay. um but it's like anything, you just have to start. And if you've got this like itch where you're like, this feels right, like this feels good,
Mm-hmm.
do what feels good. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to be careful, and I have to remind myself of this. I think we have to be careful about not thinking there's rules with social media and what we're doing. And I think there is a lot of great advice out there about how to build a business and et cetera, which is incredible. But we also don't want that advice to constrict us to the point where we paralyze ourselves and like we don't know what to do anymore, or we only think that's the only way to success, or if I want to get this, that's the only thing I have to do. And you start to kind of dismiss the things that you really want to share, or the things that you really want to create, or the things that you really want to talk about. There's no rules. And I think as well with the whole vanity metric thing, and again, I see this often with my students, is like they get hung up on, oh, well, I don't get comments if I talk about this topic, or oh, I don't really get engagement if I talk about this topic. Did you know most of my mindset posts I do on Instagram get like the minimum amount of comments? Some like one comment. They do the
Commenting for
worst.
them.
Guys, please comment on my mindset. But no, it's true. Like, and it's that kind of work that can actually like drastically change your life,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets the least amount of engagement. I couldn't give a fuck though, because I know that it's about the message. It's not about
Yeah.
who's validating me. And I think that people get really easily caught up in needing validation from other people, from something external to them. for them to keep going, for them to give themselves permission, because they're like, oh, well, no one's interested. People are interested. They just can't be fucked commenting, but they're watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I forgot the question, but that's where we landed.
I don't remember either at all. But I do think you're absolutely right with and it's so hard. I mean, you were talking for a minute about like these, these perceived rules on social media of things that we have to do or rules we have to follow. And then, into this vanity metrics as space.
Yeah.
And it is really difficult because it does feel like I have two quick little stories about it. One was, and I immediately stopped and I regret it. So I'm probably going to start posting more about it again. But I have gotten into, I don't want to say like witchy stuff, but like a little bit. Like I enjoy a full moon and putting some water out under the full moon and then drinking it in the morning. Just like little fun things,
Yeah.
And I posted something about it on Instagram on a story, not even on like the permanent feed. And I immediately got a DM from a client of mine saying, if this becomes a witch, whatever Instagram, like I will never work with you again. And I was like, whoa,
God.
whoa. And I was so caught off guard by it because I didn't think it was that controversial. And so I haven't posted anything like that again. But I should if I want to. But I think that kind of stuff can really affect you, or like you're saying, or if people aren't commenting, or if, it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, like it's not working, or you're going to get canceled
100%.
or something.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen that happen to some of my friends actually, like they've spoken about something and they get a lot of backlash for it. And I think there is I will never talk about politics. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things I will never talk about on my page, and that is politics. All the COVID shit that happened, I will never talk about that because I do have opinions. And it's funny because I remember sharing something back in the COVID time. And it was just like a quote post from someone else, like about getting sunshine and exercise and shit like that. And I had someone message me, and it's kind of similar to like what you just said. They were just like, if you're going to share this shit, I'm like, I was going to buy your course. And now that I've seen this, like, I'm not going to, like, I don't know. It was like a whole paragraph, but that was basically the premise of that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, do you not believe in getting like sunshine and exercise and going outside and fresh air for your health? Like,
right.
Hello.
Right, sure. Regardless of what you think. Yeah.
And so, yeah. However, like talking about, the full moon and like spirituality and all that stuff, like there are so many people who I'm into that shit. I love, like, there are some things I would love to talk about on my page in regards to that stuff, but I'm warming myself up. So I get it.
The mindset.
Yeah. I get what you mean, because it is such a, all the woo-woo and spiritual side of things. It's a different topic.
It is. And photography. It's kind of taboo and polarizing. And we don't have to get too far into that specifically. But it is interesting, I think, what gets people riled up. And and then potentially, stopping yourself from maybe some cool opportunity, or from posting something that feels authentic or right, or, because you're afraid of what people might think.
100%. I think though too, when those situations happen, it is so less about us, and it's about something that's been triggered in that other person, and it's a projection. Like we're not responsible excuse me, we're not responsible for how other people feel. We're not responsible for how they act. And as long as I think one of the most beautiful things that we can do as human beings is be authentic, and is to share our truth, share what we believe, and we can do that in, a less confrontational way. But if, when someone, comes at you like that, it's usually something that's been triggered in them, where it's like, oh, I don't believe in that. I can't work with someone. Like, come on. I mean, we're allowed to have differing opinions, for God's sakes. Like, it's human nature. And even like, I have friends where we have differing opinions about things, but I don't stop being friends with them because we have different opinions. Like, that's what creates like beautiful conversation, is when you have different opinions and different perspectives. So you triggered something in that person, just saying.
I did, and it was dramatic. but I do think, I think that kind of intersection of your personal brand and your business, and that can be an interesting line to sort of walk and to figure out. I also transitioned from having a business name to using, and mine still kind of is. I sort of teetered on the line and just did Juliana Mary and Company.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got really tired at a certain point of my old company name. When I was a company name, I would always write in the like third person and be like, we do this and we do that and we offer this service, and it's just me. And so I always thought that was really weird. But when you have a company name, it feels like you should be a we. And so that was a really funny transition. It's a little off topic, but if you don't mind, I would love to talk a little bit more about the limiting beliefs and the mindset work that you've mentioned just a couple of times. Like, how has that sort of impacted your personally or for your clients, like that trajectory of your business? Like, what were some things that you had to overcome, or you've seen? Maybe there's trends that you've seen. Gosh, every creative seems to come up against these blocks, or you personally?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones was when I was trying to like scale the business, from going from like small projects to bigger projects. And I think that's something like naturally as a creator you want to do, because you want to push yourself creatively. Like, you want to be able to do more like epic stuff with your projects. And like, there's definitely been I guess moments in my career where I've gotten bored with my work, and a client will come through and they'll be like, oh, we love this, we just want this. And I'm like, great, yes, I'll take you on, but the project doesn't challenge me in any kind of way where I'm seeing like creative growth. And so really, I guess one of the limiting beliefs that I had when I was wanting to scale from, those $300, $500, $1,000 projects to like where we are now is like 10 to 20K projects. I did not believe it was possible. I literally believed that there was no way that brands would pay me like $5,000 to work with me. Like, that was such a limiting belief. And that's what a limiting belief is. It limits what you can do. It limits what you believe you're actually capable of. And you'll have that at any stage in your career. Like, there's no way someone would pay me $100,000 to work with me. Limiting belief. Like, I'm sure I could one day make it happen. That's a whole other level that I haven't learned yet. But that's the thing. It's like, you go to someone who is doing 100K projects, you learn from them. If you want to do that thing, you go learn from them. But yeah, I found it was such a block that it's all in your mind. And, there's the whole strategies that you can implement where, you're increasing your prices, you're looking at your brand positioning, how people perceive you, even like moving from shooting in my second bedroom to like a studio, like that helped massively. But again, I had to deal with a limiting belief in that respect to be like, oh, like, am I good enough to shoot in a studio? Like, is this like, can I make this happen quickly? Like, are people going to pay me more to be able to work in a professional studio when I feel like sometimes there's a struggle to even book clients now where I'm working at home? And again, like that's a limiting belief. Like I thought it would take me a whole year to make that transition from going from my second bedroom to my studio, but it didn't, because I was just like, no, I'm like, I can do this. And so that's why you marry the strategy with the mindset, and that's how you get the results. Because if you just implement the strategy, you still might come up some kind of limiting belief that you have where it's like, I'm not capable of doing that yet, even though you are. And you've just got to get over it. You know, you've just got to work through. Just get it. That's
walk through it. What's like the starting? You don't have to walk us through the whole process because I'm sure it's not like a quick, but
yeah.
How to get started? Is it just a matter of identifying these limiting beliefs and then what?
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, the first step is to identify. And I mean, that's what I do in my private coaching or private and group coaching containers is we identify. And sometimes you can shift it really quickly because it might be something where it's like, oh, okay, like, well, that's not a thing for me anymore. Like, yeah, cool, let's get going.
Yeah.
Other things are going to take a lot longer to work through, especially if you have certain beliefs around money. Like money can be so deeply ingrained in our subconscious from childhood experiences and how we've grown up, and like, you know, things that we've seen in society, all that stuff. Like some of it can take a very long time to recondition. The thing you have to do though is you practice, you do different techniques, and yeah, you work through it. That's why they call it doing the inner work, because you're constantly doing the inner work. But I think one of the things that I did for myself was I spoke to people who were doing what I wanted to do, or who were acting how I wanted to act, or who believed what I felt was so hard to believe, but it was their normal. And that was a game changer for my own mindset. And I think when you can get yourself in rooms of people who are literally doing the thing that you're doing, it's easy for, like, you know, it's so easy for us to book a 10K project. If you like past Amanda, like back in, I don't know, 2020, 2021 maybe, she would have been like, that sounds so fucking hard. What do you mean? What do you mean it's easy to book in a 10K project? It is so much, like, our projects feel so much easier to book in at 10, 20K than they were at 1K, like reflecting back. And like, we don't need to have multiple calls with our clients. We just have one call. We do the thing, we talk about it, you know, we have a chat, we send the quote, we send the proposal, and they're just like, yeah, cool, let's book in. That's like, it's literally how majority of our bookings go. That feels really fucking easy. And I don't, like, Alistair and I, obviously we work together. We don't need a fuck ton of leads every month to be booked out. We have so many long-term clients now, and it's because of the relationships that we've built over time. You know, we do good quality work, we focus on our customer experience, all that stuff. Most of our bookings are just long-term clients, and I would say like 95% of brands who walk through our door become long-term clients.
Wow.
They, like, it's something that we value a lot. We highly value long-term relationships. We want to work with brands, with people, not with brands, but with people who respect us, who are going to have a good time working with us, you know, who have healthy budgets to work with so we can go do epic shit for them. And yeah, like those projects feel really easy to book. But I wouldn't have believed that like 4 years ago. And so the way that you can shift those beliefs that those limiting beliefs that you have is literally to talk to people who are doing what you want to do. It is the fastest way to shift any belief, because they're going to normalize what you have to do, and they're going to help you believe that it's actually possible. Because like I said, like the limiting belief is, it's you limiting yourself because you don't believe you're capable of it. You may not believe it's possible. So the first step is actually believing it's very, very possible for you. And the fastest way to do that is go talk to someone who's doing it. That's my answer.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. I'm just like, writing, like taking notes. It's perfect. But it is so true. I love the point about, you know, talking to other people who are doing it, because once you see people doing it, you're like, oh, just knowing that it's actually possible makes such a big difference. And then it is that just figuring out like, oh, okay, so then I can do that too. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then that strategy part to actually get there. So
Absolutely.
I have one more question for you. Well, it's kind of a two-part question. So one part of the question is, what does a beautiful, like the idea of a beautiful brand, building a beautiful brand or a beautiful business, what does that mean to you? And what would you tell yourself, like if you could go back in time and kind of talk to your 2017 plush business self, what would you tell yourself about sort of building that business?
Oh, I would say just be, I know this, like, this sounds really, you know, everyone says this, but it's because it's so true. It's be as authentic as you can. Like, I think especially in our current digital landscape, a lot of people are skeptical of other people. A lot of people find it harder to trust people. And so I think that's why I try and encourage my students to, like, you know, put your damn face on your profile, for God's sakes. Like, put your face out there. Like, put your name out there so that people actually, like, trust you. Like, because when someone can put a face and a name to a business, they're going to trust you so much more quickly than if you're nowhere to be seen. And I really do believe that building a business, this has always been my mantra. Building relationships builds business. How do you build relationships? You build relationships through like being a person, like being someone who is authentic and being you and being nice, being kind, putting yourself out there like that. Like, it's like, how do you, when you think about how you date someone, how you find a partner, how you find friendships, you have to put yourself out there and you have to actually show that you're interested in them, that you care, that you have value to offer. And it's the same in business. It's like, if you focus on building relationships, your business will build sustainably in the long term. And that's something that I am also very, like, passionate about teaching as well. Is like, I'm not here to teach you a quick win. I'm not here to, like, tell you how to book a client next week. Like, because if I say you're guaranteed that if you implement this strategy, you're going to book a client in the next month, you have, like, I never make those claims, because the person has to actually do the work themselves. And because of, you know, the whole mindset side of things, there could be a plethora of things that come up that doesn't allow them to book a client. And they're like, oh, well, her advice is shit. It doesn't work. It's like, no.
No, there's stuff going on.
Yeah. And so I think when you go into business with that perspective of, I'm here for the long term, I'm here to build relationships with people. I'm here to like tell people how I can help them. That's when you start to show up and have a really strong, I think, intent. I think it's about having a very strong intent as well. I feel like I'm talking about a lot of things, but having a strong intent in your business that you want to build a business of alignment, a business that feels really good to you, a business that you don't feel a slave to. That all comes from knowing having that long-term mindset. And I think a lot of people can get very clouded by the short-term results or lack of short-term results. Like I've heard some people be like, I haven't booked a client. Like I started 4 months ago and I haven't booked a client. Give yourself 2 years. Like if you're starting a business, give yourself 2 years before you decide maybe this isn't working. Like, and that's going all in. That's actually like committing and having that long-term mindset. You can't have one foot in and one foot out when you're building a business. You have to go all in if you want to see results. I forgot the question again, but
no, your answer was better than my question. So I think that's perfect. So Amanda, thank you so much for spending your time and your energy chatting with me. If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. It's literally just my name, Amanda Campeanu. I mean, if you just type in Amanda CAMP, I'll probably just like pop up.
Perfect.
And yeah, Instagram. I share a lot of stuff on Instagram, mostly with like more personal stuff and more business advice. So Instagram and YouTube, and my broadcast channel. My broadcast channel is like my diary. So if you're not in there,
I am in there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Amanda, so much. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. So thanks so much. And come back next time for another episode of Unaesthetically Speaking. I'm Juliana Mary, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Juliana.